and then take a left out to the main foyer and out the front doors to your right.
And Member Clooney, if you could do the honor of reading the mission statement for Coventry Public Schools.
Okay, Coventry Public Schools with community partnerships. Educate, inspire, and motivate students to be lifelong learners.
Thank you. And just to inform the public, the school committee did meet for about a half hour, starting at 6 o'clock, and we finished at 6:30, at which time we discussed matters related to the Washington Oak School driveway, home school requests, foreign exchange student request, approval, and we approved the minutes of our executive session, and we discussed SRP negotiations and pending litigation. There were 3 votes taken, one for homeschooling, one for the foreign exchange student, and one for the minutes. And they were all unanimous, 4-0. I don't think Johnny, you were there when we voted on those. Oh, were you? No, sorry, forget it. I'm talking to myself. That being said, is there a motion to seal the minutes?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the committee voted to approve the minutes of the executive session.
No, it's 4 now.
Oh, 4.
Number 4. Yeah.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the records of the executive session be kept closed pursuant to sections 42-46-4 and 42-46-5.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to the approval of our open meetings minutes. Part of our packet. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the open meeting of August 23rd, 2018 as presented / amended.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to personnel, certified resignation. Mr. Levis, did you want to speak to any of these?
No, it's just as stated.
Okay, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the resignation of Emily Alvarez, 1 year only, .6 inclusion teacher at Hopkins Hill Elementary School, effective September 21st, 2018.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 4-0. And is there a motion to recall Lori Packard?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to affirm the recommendation of the superintendent to recall Lori Patno to the position of 1 year only, .6 inclusion teacher at Hopkins Hill Elementary School, effective September 24, 2018, for the remainder of the 2018-2019 school year.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 4-0. So now we're going into the public agenda, and for the citizens gathered, public agenda items are up for discussion by the public. If there is a motion made by the school committee before the vote is taken, it goes back out to the public, and you can ask questions, concerns you might have before the vote is actually taken. That being said, I would like to move forward number 16 and 17 because our lawyer would like to be here during this discussion, and we want him to have an early night as opposed to a later night. So, so number 16 is firearms in schools, the RIDE directive, which was our reference number 6. Mr. Levis, did you want
Sure,
to speak
just
to
that
that?
on August 29th, the Commissioner of Education had sent out more of a directive around firearms in schools, and specifically around concealed firearms, and quotes a lot of state laws, but I shared this with the committee, but this is our first opportunity as a committee, in case you had any questions, because again, I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is this is more guidance, but there's still state statutes that dictate in terms of what can and can't be done on school property. So I wanted to give the opportunity for the school committee to ask any questions, or probably any questions of our attorney in terms of what does this mean for Coventry. The Chief of Police, Colonel McDonald, also, I shared a copy of this with him also when this came out. So I put it on the agenda.
I don't have any questions. Are there any questions from Mr. Pierce, did you have a question?
Did the colonel provide any feedback, or you just?
No, I mean, just, he hadn't really gone through it. We did, the only conversation we had, very brief. So to answer your question, no real feedback, just I shared with him my concern that this is guidance from the commissioner and the governor, but it really does, you know, I was questioning what role it really played in terms of, did it supersede now state law, which to me, you know, my understanding is it does not. So I did inform him I was going to have our attorney discuss it, but at that time, Mr. Anderson and I hadn't even discussed it, so, but I can get, you know, his feedback also. I thought it's important.
I was just curious if he provided feedback. I don't necessarily think we need his feedback.
Yeah.
Because, my understanding, and Mr. Anderson can confirm in what you just said, state law still is in effect, so there's not really, it's
Right.
not really an enforceable memo, fiat, whatever we want to call it, from the right director. So, true, there's not much we can.
I'll simply say that the enforcement of firearm laws is conferred by state law on the police department. It is not conferred on the ladies and gentlemen of the school committee. It is not conferred on the superintendent of schools. So if there's a question of firearms enforcement at any school in the Coventry Public School Department, my advice is to call the police department and not call the superintendent.
Agreed, good advice, thank you.
Any questions, any other questions from the committee? We're all good? Any questions from the public before we move on? Seeing none, I guess we can go to number 17, which is the discussion and approval of the SRP contract. Mr. Levis, did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, just that I think I want to thank the members of the SRP negotiating committee, who I think many of them, or they're all here. I don't know if you guys want to stand up, please. And they, I think they worked very hard. We worked very hard, I think, to come up with something that we felt was a fair contract. And I've met with the committee and shared the information with the committee. And so I think tonight was an opportunity for us. I know it was ratified by your bargaining unit this Sunday.
Yes,
I
it
shared
was.
that with the committee. And so our next step is that, to bring it forward to the committee tonight to ask any questions, to discuss, to vote on, and then I will communicate to the interim town manager and the town council president that we want to get on their agenda for discussion and approval. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
So before we motion, are there any questions from the school committee? Seeing none, are we ready for a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the SRP contract as presented / amended.
I second the motion.
Again, any questions from the committee? Any questions from the citizens gathering? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The motion carries 3 to 1. Congratulations. Thanks, Mr. Anderson. I just wanted to comment, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sure.
Why it was a vote of no?
You may, well, I mean, it's up to the chair.
Yeah, no, yes, you can.
Sure, I'll address it very briefly because, again, understanding this is about your job's livelihood, and I don't want to be insensitive to that. I'm deeply concerned that this school committee has been spending a lot of money. In fact, we're have on our agenda this evening new positions. Our superintendent was at the town council on Monday asking for the establishment of capital funds. My only concern in this contract is I'm not certain that this is sustainable given the current financial state of the town. I'll leave it at that.
I would like again to thank the members of the team.
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
Do you know any of the members of the SRP? Have you been in our schools to see how our people work, how SRP work? Have you been in any of the classrooms and visited any of the classrooms?
Absolutely.
You have? Have you been to the high school? Because I work here and I haven't seen you. Have you been here?
Madam Chair, I don't think there's a time for accusations.
Yeah,
I have been
yeah.
to all the schools, I have witnessed.
I just want to make
all
sure
the
that when
SRP
you have a
personnel.
vote of no,
You do a wonderful job. This is a financial decision on my part. This is not a question of your job performance.
okay.
Oh, by the way, you should be identifying yourself for the record. So, the first gal, did you want to give your address too, as well?
1357 Hill Farm Road, Coventry, Rhode Island.
Thank you, Sue.
Linda Bellarmine, 73 Niblett Circle.
All right. This is
Kelly
our-
Aranakis, 9 Chicago Drive. I'd just like to address the committee as a whole, unfortunately, especially the one neighbor. When you look at the town as a whole, I need to reiterate that the police are coming off of 333. The municipal employees who are also our employees in our town, who make more than our SRP employees, are coming off 444. Our SRP employees are coming off 0, 1.1, 1.1. When you look at equity of the town and tax dollars, and we are all taxpayers, to sit there and say that the town and the school is spending too much money, and to take one subset of the town's employees out is patently unfair, definitely equitable, and shows a great deal of disrespect to the employees of the school versus the employees of the town at large. And the school employees are also employees of the town. So I respectfully have to say I'm very disappointed in that vote, as are going to be the 60% of those members who live in town. Thank you.
Thank you.
My only comment is, again, I want to thank the people that did work on this contract. I think that the SRP negotiators were very reasonable. They gave up some things that I think they could have, they were reasonable, let's just put it that way. I thought it was very fair, and I thank you for your efforts to ratify this contract, and it wasn't an easy contract considering the raises you have had in the past. And the things that you still have to pay for in this new contract are going to eat away at some of the raise that you're actually going to get. So I get that, and I really appreciate that work. I am also hopeful that when this goes before the town council, that they will see clearly that you have made some sacrifices and continue to make sacrifices in this district, and have in the past made sacrifices, certainly in your pension, et cetera, and they will do the right thing and ratify this contract. That being said, are there any other comments to be made? Seeing none, I guess we'll go back to number 8, which is our field trip request, reference number 3. Mr. Levis, did you want to
Sure.
speak to this?
So this is, I think, Coach Warner and Bradshaw, here. This is a trip that they take every year. They come before us because it's an overnight trip and it's over 100 miles. That we asked them to come before. We asked for approval from the school committee. They've come before, but I think the trip in the past has been a phenomenal trip, very successful. There haven't been any issues, and I recommend that we approve it, but if somebody has questions, they are here to answer the question.
Any questions from the committee? I'm good. Are we ready to move?
Okay.
Yeah, there's a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the field trip request for coaches Warner and Bradshaw to travel with 24 members of the Coventry cross-country team to Thetford, Vermont for a cross-country race with teams from all over New England on Friday, October 5th, 2018, and returning on Saturday, October 6th, 2018.
second the motion.
Any questions or concerns from the public? Any questions or concerns from the coach? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to our second field trip for the Navy Junior ROTC. Were there any questions on that particular trip from the school committee? Mr. Levis, did you want to speak to this?
No, just that this is, I had a parent text me and say, how come this Master Chief has to come before? And we've done this before, and I said, because we have a policy that indicates that it's an overnight trip and it's up and it needs to be approved. And, no conspiracy theory here. So I think, again, we all know the quality of the ROTC program and the students, and this is a competition that you're going to up in, correct?
Yes, sir, up in Waterboro, Maine.
Maine. So I recommend approval, but again, it needs approval by the school committee. So that's why Master Chief is here, in case you have any questions for him. But I recommend that we support this.
Hope you can raise the money. I saw that. Any questions for Master Chief or Superintendent? I guess we're ready to motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the field trip request for Master Chief Ed Key to travel with 25 Navy Junior ROTC students to Massabesic High School in Waterboro, Maine, for a drill competition on Friday, October 19, 2018, and returning on Saturday, October 20th, 2018.
I second the motion.
Any final questions from the committee? Anything from the public? Come home with some trophies? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Okay, you're all set. Moving on to number 9, which is the EMT training program and bid award. I don't know who wants to take this. Laurie does, or you do, or?
I don't mind starting then if you have
Oh, you
program
want-
questions,
oh.
you can ask Ms.
Ms.
Ferguson.
Mangione.
So there's a write-up in your
Yes.
packet.
Good.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Ms. Ferguson requested that we go out to bid just to see what different vendors are out there. We received 2 bids. Financially, they were the same cost per student, so really at that point, I kind of defaulted to Ms. Ferguson to determine which vendor to pursue. She had selected New England Emergency Medical Training. They have extensive experience within other high schools, so they understand the rotating schedules and bringing equipment in. So I think that was probably the ultimate deciding factor. So
Sounds good. Any questions from the committee on this proposal? Are we ready to move?
Madam Chair, I vote to approve the EMT training program bid awarded to New England Emergency Medical Training for Career and Technical Program.
I second the motion.
Any further questions from the committee? Anything from the public? Sounds like a great program, by the way. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to 10, the rescinding of the purchasing policy.
Yeah, I just want to say there's several policies coming up, and just to kind of summarize, either these are policies that we have revised and these are no longer necessary, or they're policies that we've identified that are no longer required because of state law, and that we want to rescind them. So obviously, as we go through them, if you have questions, but that summarizes why the policies are being rescinded.
Okay, sounds good. All right, is there a motion to rescind the purchasing policy?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to rescind the purchasing policy number 3320.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to the special education hearings policy number 4128. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to rescind the special education hearings policy number 4128.
I second the motion.
Any further questions from the committee? From the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. And the inclusion policy, number 6120.2, is there a motion to rescind?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to rescind the inclusion policy number 6120.2.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Anything from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. And number 13, the rescinding of the student health screening policy. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to rescind the student health screening policy, Rhode Island Department of Health, number 5144.3.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to the relocation and programs policy, number 6156.1. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to table rescinding the relocation policy number 6156.1.
Why was that table? Is that true?
No, that's an error.
Table doesn't belong in there, that was a mistake.
Okay.
So
Madam
we're
Chair,
rescinding.
so
We
I'll
have to
rescind
rescind.
that motion, and I'll state, Madam Chair, I make a motion to rescind the relocation of programs policy number 6156.1.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, any questions from the public? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. And finally, the student-operated motor vehicles on school property, our policy number 5131.7. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to rescind the student-operated motor vehicles on school property policy number 5131.7.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Okay, so now we're up to number 18, the discussion of and approval of, hopefully, increase of hourly rate for child outreach screen/data, reference number 8. Mr. Levis, did you want to speak to that?
Sure. And Ms. Mandrelli, feel free to jump in. This was brought to my attention just last week that we have not had an increase in terms of the screeners in, was it
I think it's almost 5 years at
Five?
least.
5 years? And so we looked at other communities. It's, again, reference number 8. And so the recommendation was, based on the review of surrounding communities, to increase it from $10 to $11, which would, I think it's basically a $400 increase in this year's budget. But we felt that, we've talked about, we're doing other contracts, and we felt that this would be appropriate at this time to bring forward. So that's our recommendation.
Any questions from the committee?
I just have one. How many screeners do we have?
So we have 2 screeners and 1 data entry person, which last year we had a hard time filling that data entry person because of the price point. And the $10 is below minimum wage too, so we really do have to bump that up. But just to give you an idea of the hours, the 2 screeners worked about 240 hours in total last year, so this isn't a significant amount of time. In FY17, the data entry person was about 100 hours, some of which last year Lisa Neal picked up. So that's why the dollar amount is so low on the total impact. This did come up last year, mid-year, and I had budgeted for this increase. We just hadn't gotten around to asking for the actual rate increase, and we just got the first time slip, which reminded us to come forward. But I did budget for it in the FY19 budget because it did come up last year, but we didn't make a mid-year switch in the rate.
I just have one more question. Now, I noticed that some of the other cities are a lot higher.
Yeah, and some of it is dependent upon the program. So in some communities, there's only 1. Let me see, I actually have some information on that. I can pull it up right now if you want. But some of it is just the way that it's structured within those different communities. I think the biggest spike on the 1 is because they only have 1 person that does all of it. So they're treated a little bit more than, they're almost treated like a consultant, but we're directing them, so we pay them like an employee.
Okay.
Any other questions? James?
Yeah, Sarah, you mentioned $10 is below the current minimum wage. Can you refresh our memory? What's the
So
current?
in January 1st, 2018, it went to 1010.
Is that $10?
And just for some reference for us, student employment at Brown, their minimum is above the minimum wage at Rhode Island, but it's $10.60. And that, I mean, the kids basically, they don't have any experience. They're student employees, and we start them at $10.60. So this doesn't seem like it's an outrageous increase at all to me. Any other questions from us? Are we ready to move?
Okay, Madam Chair, I make a motion to increase the hourly rate for the child outreach data/screeners from $10 per hour to $11 per hour, retroactive to July 1st, 2018.
I second the motion. Any further questions from the committee? Anything from the public? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to 19, which is the discussion and approval of a .2 math position at the high school, which was our reference number 9. Mr. Levis, I
Yes.
assume you want to take this?
Yes. So before I just address this, I just want to be clear that in the budget process last year, we eliminated 21.6 positions. We laid off a significant number of individuals, greater than that. We brought back a lot of individuals, but there are a lot of variables. We had many leaves, one-year leaves, and so a lot of people were able to come back to one-year positions. But we did the best we could at the time, based on the numbers and the projections, and you know, our system is very fluid. We have students, I just received an email while I was sitting here, students moving in. And so it was brought to my attention, and Mr. Pearson, you mentioned a little bit earlier about, you know, adding positions. My responsibility as superintendent it's really identified in the basic education plan, and some of the things I'm talking about tonight are providing a safe, secure environment, not just to students, but also to staff, to everybody in our schools. But we also have to meet student needs, and I need to have people in front of students and address their needs. And you know, we've cut positions that we know we need. Ms. Murphy's here tonight. That's a position that it's not a position, a librarian at the middle school, that we want to cut. You know, and if you remember, I remember very clearly sitting there in front of every single teacher or individual that came up and wanted to speak. And I took full responsibility for those decisions. But I also take responsibility moving forward, that if we have a need and that I feel that need is necessary, that I'm going to bring that forward. And because I hear different things that are being said sometimes about, you know, we had asked the town council and the town manager for, from what was presented to us, for additional $357,000. And thank you to the taxpayers that have voted to give us an additional $200,000. I think the school department's budget was overwhelmingly voted by everybody that was there, which I think we should take personal and say that I think it was an overwhelming support of how we operate the schools. But I want to be clear that we still did not get the funds that we needed. I was asked the other night about what that $200,000. We needed $357,000 just based on what we knew when we made those cuts. That has nothing to do with how things have evolved since school started. And we know that our budget's fluid. So I just want to be clear about that, you know, I've never stated that if we have needs, I'm not going to come forward. I did share with the school committee justifications for each position. We'll go through that as we go through this. I also shared in terms of the funds. Some of these, you know, we're still talking about positions. I'm meeting with the high school next week along with Ms. Mandrelli, the high school administration, Mrs. Andrews, Andy Riols, because we have classrooms where there are many overages. We have areas where we need to try to figure out how we're going to meet students' needs. We have students that took honors program, and I was told this today, that have taken honors classes, but feel that the honors program is too rigorous for them. Remember, we eliminate all our lower level classes. Everything's college prep. But we don't have any slots for those kids to go. So we have to think philosophically, how are we going to handle that? So this is still ongoing and fluid. So I just want to be clear about tonight and what the positions are. And I, as superintendent, I never said that I was never going to come back. My job is to address the needs and to bring them forward and to be transparent about that. And I think we define what transparency is. You know, it doesn't mean everybody truly understands it or gets it, so the math position here is we have a need, and we met with the high school administration. Mrs. Andrews, who's in the interim at the high school, Ms. Bowden, and there's a need to have an additional section of Algebra 1 at the high school. And there's no place for those students to go. And they've been working extremely hard at trying to eliminate where we have overages, placing students. Again, there's still several other areas. But this was one of the first areas that was brought to my attention maybe 2 weeks ago. And so in order to meet those students' needs that have no place to go, that we need to add another section, which would be a .2. We have a teacher that's a .8, so this would make that teaching position whole. As it stands now, we're going to offset that position with a .2 French position. But we have other issues that we're going to be addressing, I believe, Monday afternoon, and we're meeting. But again, this is a need that we have right now. So, I'm recommending that we approve that position.
Any questions from the committee about this particular one?
I have a question because I'm concerned. When you say the students have nowhere to go, what are they doing right now?
They're in classes that are too large to address their...
Or too large? Okay.
Too large to address their... Like we have... Our contractual, I think, contract is it's 28 students per class, but it's 125 students per caseload.
We have my only concern
Yes.
is the way it was said, because when you say they have nowhere to go, it makes it sound like they're sitting in the library twiddling their thumbs,
No.
which is not the case.
No, they're just not...
But understanding.
Yeah, based on their need, it's been presented.
However, this is Algebra 1, that's a mandatory grade 9
Absolutely.
class.
Yeah, understood.
And every class is full or over capacity. So if a new 9th grader walks in, we really don't have any place for them to go.
Okay.
So unless we create an additional overage, those classes are all full.
Right.
To max capacity and over.
And the overage, I mean, it's great that we can do overages, but again, we have to balance that with the needs of students. And with our challenges that we faced, even though there's been a lot of work that's being done at the middle school level and a lot of work that's being done at the high school level around math and Algebra 1, it's still an area that we really struggle
and
with.
for freshmen especially, it's a transition year, so having an overage in a math class for freshmen
And,
it is a difficult situation.
and we have a lot of overages. I just want to be clear that when we cut all those positions, we had no choice. We needed to get down to, was it $1.4 million? But we, you know, in some of those areas we could reduce, but we were also warned, and it came up several times about class size. And I heard that, but I really didn't have a choice, you know. I was open to suggestions then, and when we do the budget process this year, I'll be open to suggestions. So, but this is something that I feel strongly that we need to put on.
Superintendent, I'm just concerned, listening to you say about the class sizes and that. How can we teach the whole child if we can't get to the whole child? If they're that crowded, you know?
Well, I mean, a couple of things. We have very hard, dedicated, hardworking teachers. And I'm not saying that because we have some teachers here. You know, I spend a lot of time in the school. I spend a lot of time in the high school. And people that care and they're passionate. But you're right, it's going to be a challenge. This is not the perfect world. Sitting there, seeing that auditorium fill last year when we had that meeting where the teachers were, it wasn't something you want to do, you know? And to see people that you know that work hard, who care about kids, you know, and try to separate yourself so it's not personal, it's just, you know, I look at it as a function of what I do, but it's not why we do this. You know, and when people talk about the taxpayers, I mean, almost half of our employees live in the town of Coventry. I mean, that's high for a school. I think we have 700 and some odd employees. we have 230 or 20 some odd teachers and 169 SRP members that live in town. And we have a significant amount of people, so this is their community. It isn't just, I live in Attleboro, Mass. But most of our employees, many of our employees live in this town. And so it's a double whammy to them. And so I don't have an answer. I mean, we try to, I met with, I had a visit from a council person today, and just saying is that we need to, there's no quick fix here. We talk about, I always try to take the high road here. We inherit, and I know Ms. Patton and I had this conversation, superintendents have said that before, but there's a lot of things that we find and identify every single day. And I don't have the luxury to waste the time pointing the finger. It's just we need to work together to move forward. So I don't have a solution. I mean, we're coming into a tough budget year, we know that, and then the following year will be tough. But we don't have, what's the option? To throw in the towel?
I don't think I was looking for a solution. I think I was basically just making a statement.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. But we are in the people business, and we invest our money in our people. It's not in our palatial buildings we have here, that's being facetious.
I know.
Yeah, I think we're in the education business, and we just have to stop ignoring the buildings as well.
I agree. We need to come up with solutions. I agree. But, this is not a good position to be in. And I know that. And I feel bad. Like I said, Ms. Mangiarelli, she and I, we talk about this. She's hired to do a job, and she does an outstanding job. And it's hard for me to come, and I say to you, these are our needs that we have. And I don't know where the money's coming from. But as superintendent, I have to come here before you and not try to make you be the bad guy, but to have an honest conversation about, the only good thing about it is that we have a large budget, and hopefully we get some breaks, because we haven't had many breaks. We've had very few breaks on the bad side.
But to clarify on this math position, you said the money is coming from a reduction of...
And right now, but that could, well, it is right now. That email that we said, I've talked to Lori about it. We have some other options there, just so you know. So this is very fluid, just so you know. We're dealing with stuff. So we're dealing with stuff from the high school, and it's not the high school. I mean, they've done an incredible job, but it's so fluid. People come in every single day. We have students come in, students leave. Donna Bowden, I don't know if Donna's here. She's done an amazing job, and not to take away from anybody else, but anybody that works with her knows she has put so much time into trying to manage the schedules. Having parents, who rightfully so, I'm a parent, and all you care about is your child, and children can't get the courses they want, or they're over their head, and the mom, it's only been 5 days, say, but the parents are hearing, I'm overwhelmed, this is too hard, and she had to say to parents, we have no place to put students. She had 5 or 6 students that were in an honors class. I don't know what the content, I can't remember. There's no place for them to go. We can't pull them out of the course and put them in a college prep class because we have no place for them to go. We need like a bunch of .2 positions to open other sections. And right now we don't, so we're going to sit Monday, many of us, to try to brainstorm to think about what can we do to address student need, but also recognizing, how many days has school been open? Was this the 3rd day, 4th day? I don't even remember. 5th day? I don't even know what day it is. But we're starting, we're this tight right now, so 9th day, all right. So anyways. So I mean, I don't, I'll take full responsibility, but it's something as superintendent, I feel like I have to come before you and ask for these positions. And just, there were many more requests than this, so, but I'm more than willing to answer any question, like I said, or have questions about as we go through. So right now, that's the request on the table, I believe, is for the math position, the .2.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the addition of a .2 math position at Coventry High School.
I second the motion. Any further questions from the committee? Anything from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to number 20. The 4-hour clerk for Allen John Feinstein Middle School Library, which again is our reference number 9. Mr. Levis?
Right. So I mean, we eliminated the librarian position against lots of recommendations. But again, I had to cut the $1.4 million. So I'm not looking to replace the library position. Ideally, if we could do that at some point, we definitely want to do that. And Ms. Murray, you're here, you did an outstanding job. You do an outstanding job. But what I'm looking to do as part of that function was in terms of the Chromebooks. And so in that support, and so what I'm looking to do is to put a 4-hour clerk to support, because right now there's nobody in it. There's nothing. So, I know that if that clerk does certain duties, that were the duties, I know that the union, and rightfully so, will agree with it, but as superintendent, I need to do something, and that's what I want to recommend, because we have to provide some support. Right now, there's no support, and we're never going to replace Ms. Murphy there. We know that, but to provide some assistance and some support. And that was, going into this, that's what, the intent was. But again, there's so many moving parts. So that's, again, that's my recommendation to the committee. And this is something that should have been in our original budget. This is something that the intent was there, it just wasn't put in. Because we knew we were eliminating the library position, and we talked about this, but it was never put in the budget. So I'll take ownership for that.
Any questions from the committee?
So that actually was my question, because I do recall this coming up as part of our staffing plan during the budget discussions, that we were planning for a 4-hour clerk in the library.
Right.
So
Yeah.
to learn that there isn't one is surprising, somewhat disappointing, but the budget being the way it was, somewhat understandable. Can you explain again what the duties of this clerk will be?
Just to assist in terms of, predominantly, mainly, to support students in terms of working around the whole Chromebook piece that Ms. Murphy used to do a lot with the Chromebooks, students coming in. We're going to look at other responsibilities. Like I said, I don't know what all the different, there's functions that we can't do because it would be replacing the librarian, but there are other functions that I believe that we can do because we're not trying to replace the duties of the librarian.
When you say Chromebook duties, is that advising students on tips and tricks and proper way to use the applications in their Chromebook, or is it more about, the technical side, dealing with breaks and fixes and logging, repairs, things like that?
No, not the repairs, but the whole process in terms of getting Chromebooks solution. Did you want to?
Yeah, can I just chime in a little bit? I'm Joe Lewis, I'm the principal of National Science School. Just in case people didn't know, all of our curriculum for English, we require the kids to read 30 minutes a day. And part of that is we take the books out of the library and checking them out and getting them back in. Unfortunately, right now, because we do not have anybody, that is not being done through the library. It's all what we can get together with digital. There's a lot of frustration going on right now, and other ways trying to fix it right now. Again, that would be part of the duty. Another part of the duty would be funding distributions for the loaner, for the daily loaners for the kids that come down either. And really, particularly, it really affects us when we do like STAR data testing, or when we do any type of testing that we had, standardized testing throughout the year. The STAR right now, we've been talking back and forth with Don and Aaron and everybody. We're just waiting for that, but right now we have no loaners for the day if that were to happen. And the kids' Chromebooks, die out, the chargers are working, and they didn't charge it.
That never happens.
The kids, let's be honest, so and we have only one, a lot of times only one desktop inside the room, that, obviously only one kid can be on at a time if that were the case, that we can use that, so plus, if it is not a clerk, we cannot have anybody access and get onto Aspen to look information up for kids' information in order to do that. So that's why it has to be a clerk. So it's many different layers to this position that we really truly need, along with the fact that our entire staff of copying, or if kids need to copy something for the class or anything, that's what goes in the library. In order to move that machine to another location, they have to run the wires and everything else, because we just don't have the capability to do it. If we were even trying to think, we could do it somewhere else, we need volunteers for that. It would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. One more question, Mr. Levis.
Sure.
So again, back to the budgets or fluid comment, we have not identified funding for this position?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I can go into the budget and we can say, I'm going to cut, I'm going to cut money from this line and this line, right? I mean, we do that all the time, but that's not something that I have done. Because we're having another conversation Monday to look at, the additional needs that may be at the high school. And this is ongoing. I mean, there are people that have requested, since we made the cuts, there have been requests put on the table for different types of positions. And, we have to weigh every single position out. So at some point, when I feel I have a more comprehensive, but some of these things just can't wait. Like I said, this conversation we're having with the high school Monday is very, very important, but we have students that have needs and programs that have needs, so that's why these are on the agenda tonight. But I think I hope I said that in the sheet that I shared with the committee. We've identified a funding source for 2 positions on there that'll come up later on, the 2 teaching assistants that we can use. We believe we can use Title I funds for that, but that's it.
What my comment would be that I am confident that Sarah and the team at Central will cut the budget, and we will be, we will not go over
It's more than confident, we have to insist.
Well, of course, I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that basically state law?
You can't work in a deficit.
Exactly, so.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure where it will come from, that's not my job.
Thank you.
Did we want a motion first? Are we ready to motion for this particular position?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve a 4-hour clerk position for the Alan Sean Feinstein Middle School Library.
Second the motion.
Any further questions from the committee? Any questions or concerns from the public?
Yes. My name is Susan Murphy, and I am the district librarian at Black Rock and Western Coventry Elementary Schools. I was the library media specialist at Alan Sean Feinstein Middle School for 14 years, until the position was eliminated and I was displaced. At the outset, I want you to know that I am fully committed to my new positions at Black Rock and Western Coventry School. I am here to speak to the proposed new position of a 4-hour library clerk for Feinstein Middle School. I have serious concerns for our students and for the profession of teaching, both of which are being placed at risk. For those who are not aware, there was a time when Alan Sean Feinstein Middle School had 2 professional librarians and an experienced full-time clerk. There are no librarians and no trained clerk there now. At the same time, the technology and management systems, which Mr. Lucian and others have already talked about, of school libraries and the services and resources they are supposed to provide have expanded exponentially. In Rhode Island, a master's degree is required for school library media certification. The standard of practice in school libraries is for clerks to assist the librarian and work under the librarian's direct supervision. I have a few questions to begin this discussion. Why did the superintendent and school committee decide to displace the certified library media specialist at Alan Sean Feinstein Middle School?
I think I've answered that before. It's purely based on budget. So.
Were you aware of the educational and instructional services, as Ms. Lucia has mentioned, provided to the students and teachers by a certified library media specialist?
You asking me if I was aware?
Anyone on the school committee?
I'll answer, yeah. I mean, I think we've had this conversation, Ms. Murphy. I'm willing to listen to anything you have to say, but we needed to cut $1.4 million, so yes, I was well aware.
Were you aware, as has been brought up recently in several emails I received, of the technology and library management systems required to operate the library?
Yes.
What librarian is going to direct and supervise the clerk?
Nobody right now.
What librarian will the clerk report to?
They'll report to the principal.
And for whom shall the clerk get guidance?
The district will provide guidance to the clerk.
Let me describe a few typical library media specialist interactions with middle school students. A 6th grade student asks for help locating research material on any person from the American Revolution. Though this clerk may be prohibited from responding because the clerk does not have a certification to provide readers advisory services or curriculum support. For example, a 7th grade student wants to check out a book that is way beyond his reading level for a science report on catastrophic events. The clerk will not know the student's reading level as a result of STAR testing because those are confidential. The clerk cannot match that student up with appropriate books or internet resources at his reading level. An 8th grade student who is at high school reading level wants the materials on computer coding. A clerk will not be able to identify and request appropriate books from other school libraries for the student. A clerk cannot recommend books to students who come to the media center asking, "I hate reading, but my teacher says I have to get a book." A clerk will not be able to defend a book in the collection which contains content on topics such as drug use, homosexuality, and suicide when a parent or guardian objects. There are strong reasons why the state of Rhode Island requires a master's degree in library media for certification. Failing to recognize this value has strong implications for Coventry, its school, and its students. Students at Allen Shawn Fine Middle School have already lost the privilege of borrowing books and other resources from 205 school libraries in Rhode Island. As the state of Rhode Island, Library of Rhode Island Standards and Regulations 3.3 clearly sets out the requirement that the library has qualified paid staff to manage the collection and provide access to it, with a minimum of 1 professional librarian who holds a master's degree in library science from an accredited graduate school. Yes, there are books now in the Feinstein Media Center that students and teachers want to check out because they have been carefully selected for middle school students at Allen Shawn Feinstein Middle School to support their curriculum and outside interests of students. A clerk cannot select new books for ASFM students by being informed by teacher input, STAR testing, or knowledge of the curriculum. A clerk cannot read the collection of outdated and inaccurate materials. New books are constantly being published, and internet resources are ever changing. Student interests change, and new curriculum is developed. How will the Library Media Center grow and services meet the changing needs of the school community? I agree with our district coordinator of curriculum assessment and instruction, who wrote in an email to all Coventry staff on June 18, 2018, and I quote, "Since last year's POC results, I have been watching our gender performance data. Our girls consistently outperform our boys on regular reading standardized testing. Yet math is almost even across most of the grade levels. It makes me think about how we teach reading and are we reaching and engaging all of our students. It makes me reflect on our materials and instructional methods, mindset, and expectations. Helping students access materials that they need at the appropriate reading levels and interest levels is the most essential service a school library can provide. This is what ASFM students expect. A clerk cannot do this. Don't Allen Shawn Feinstein Middle School students and their parents deserve access to the best professional service and best resources, just like our Coventry Elementary School students and our Coventry High School students? A school library clerk assists a certified librarian in ensuring the functioning and daily operations of a school library. This is prudent. A school library clerk performs routine clerical duties under direct supervision of a certified librarian. This is sensible. But a library clerk working without a certified library media specialist is like a surgical nurse operating without a surgeon. It is a dangerous situation, a dangerous decision, and not supported by the state of Rhode Island or by our union contract.
Is there any other comments?
Hilary Nakis, Venture Maple Drive, good segue, so as union president, I extended the position the committee's in. The budget was passed in June. Just at the high school alone, over the summer, we had 75 new students added. They're still pouring in the doors daily. The classes are overloaded, they're full. You have in-support classes that are over 30 students. These are students with severe autistic needs, behavioral needs, social emotional needs, and many learning disabilities. 30-plus students in one class. I would challenge any of you to try and teach that type of class. So I know that during the budget crunch, I know the high school needs positions, I know the middle school needs positions, I know the elementaries need positions. We all warned everyone of this. It wasn't for an alarmist reason, it was in all sincerity. Having no library at the middle school is an atrocity. The kids come out of the elementary school having a librarian. I understand you had to make a cut, you had to get to 1.4. As union president, if you put a school clerk in there without a librarian, I will let you know that I'll have a meeting on your desk immediately.
Dave?
I have something to say now. Sure. People think schools are a business. They're not. People think state government's a business. It's not. It's been proven over the last 30 years that they want people to do the most with the least. That's what our government wants us to do. They want us to do the most with the least. And we can't do it. At some point, there comes a point, Mrs. Murphy, you're absolutely correct, where there's going to be a crisis. Either something catastrophic is going to happen, or our education system is going to fail at some point. We have to start thinking in that manner. We have to start thinking about educating our students and about putting funds into the system for our future. Because if we continue on this path, trying to get the most for the least, we're going to get the least. We're going to have children that aren't going to be prepared to go into the world. And that's the sad commentary. What Mr. Levis is trying to do is to put his finger in the dike to stop the bleeding. But seriously, we have to start looking at our children and our parents, at the situation they come from, and there are a lot of grandparents raising their children. There's all kinds of issues that are happening within this district with our children. And yes, a lot of times Mrs. Aronakis is absolutely correct. You have a group of children and they just don't listen. Or you have a child, I had to speak to a parent whose child graduated the high school, and is now looking for a job, and he's at a third grade reading level. That's not because of Mr. Levis. That's just how it is. That's how it is. And we have to change that. But it takes resources. It takes an influx of funds. And the state has failed miserably at that. And I don't know what the answer is. All I can say is we as a community have to band together and say enough. We will no longer work our teachers, our teacher assistants for the most, for the least. And we want the most from the least from everyone, including our administrators. And it's a sad commentary on our society right now. It may not be that way forever, But right now, that's how it is. I remember, and you remember when it wasn't that way. Okay? We remember in the 90s. We remember the early 2000s.